Okay, I'm Nick Rishwain. I'm interviewing Mitch Jackson today, and I was listening to Mitch's Periscope yesterday, so I am going to say this. This blab is brought to you by Experts.com. And a little bit about Mitch for anybody who isn't familiar with him. Bear with me while I go through some of these accomplishments, Mitch. But Mitch is a California personal injury and wrongful death attorney down in Southern California in the San Diego area. And in 2009, you were named the Orange County Trial Lawyer of the Year. In 2013, you received the California Lawyer Attorneys of the Year Award. For which recognizes, I think, attorneys who, as I understand it, attorneys who have changed the law, substantially influenced public policy, or achieved remarkable victory on behalf of a client. And my understanding from what I read is that was from the Plotnick versus Meehouse case. Am I saying that correct?
You've done your research, Nick.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Well, and I had to say that, being a dog lover, that the dog owners in that case were awarded emotional distress damages when a neighbor intentionally injured their dog. So, on top of already liking you, that really pushed it over the edge. And
a little side note.
Yeah.
What we did with that case, ladies and gentlemen, is it's the first time we created new law in California. Mm-hmm. And if your pet has been intentionally harmed by somebody else and that harm has caused you emotional distress, you have the right to go into court and seek damages, assuming there are damages. Little side note is I also think our judge was a dog owner and lover on that case.
Interesting. And then that did go to the California Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, or Fourth District Court of Appeals. You mentioned you're a legal malpractice expert witness, and I know that you're a fourth-generation Rotarian. You coach youth sports, as I understand. So one of the reasons, of course, that I brought you on here is you're the streaming lawyer, and you've really embraced digital media. And one of the things that we try and encourage our members at Experts.com to do is embrace digital media. And I saw today that there was a report, I think LexisNexis put it out, that over 76% of the lawyers retained people are doing research. 76% of adults who have to retain a lawyer are doing their research online, at least some part of the research. So, your digital footprint needs to be online these days. It's same argument we make to many of our experts. Can you tell me? I see you on all sorts of platforms, from Blab to Periscope, Twitter. Can you tell me where you started with the digital platform? Which digital platform you chose to jump on and really get involved?
I can. And, it's interesting about digital footprints is if you're not building your own digital footprint, then you're giving permission for someone else to do that for you, whether you want them to or not. So it's important to take the initiative, get online, get on the social platforms, and build your digital footprint. One reason just comes to note. Email 15, 20 minutes ago from a friend of mine in New York who's an attorney that just gave the New York Times my information for an interview regarding lawyers using the online platforms, and it's premised upon our relationship that she and I built online. So there's major traction that can be created by having a presence on the digital platform. And when that article comes out, Nick, I'll shoot you a link. Yeah, I think I started back in 1996 with blogging.
Okay.
So a more traditional blogging website type of scenario. And then when social media came around, I'm going to say back in the, 2007, 2008, 9, 10, and 11, probably started off with Facebook, migrated over to Twitter, and then started incorporating the platforms as I saw the results. I mean, it was just an amazing way to expand your sphere of influence, and it's something that all of your experts should be doing. And I wanted to give a shout out to everybody joining us today. Let me share this on Twitter right now with my audience, if you don't mind. I'd like to ask everyone else to do the same. It's good to see you guys.
Thank you, Mitch, and I'm going to do that as well. It looks like we have some of the people that we normally interact with here. We've got Don Carter visiting. I see Jennifer Haverstead, and hopefully we'll have a chance. I want to ask you some questions, and hopefully we'll have some other chance to bring some people in and get their questions as well.
Fantastic.
So you started building your digital footprint or your digital presence in let's say 2000 from blogging early on, and then Facebook and the social media. I heard you talk about, you can become your own global media empire, and in one of your scopes, I think you were talking about that. Are your clients adopting digital platforms as fast as professionals are embracing it, or are they doing it faster than professionals?
My clients, my non-legal clients, it's interesting. Obviously, the younger ones are all about the digital platforms. And I think it's really important for attorneys, for any type of expert, regardless of what you do, is when you have a new client approach you, whether it's for an interview, whether it's to retain your services, ask that client, how would you like me to communicate with you? If that client wants you to use the phone, use the phone. If they want you to communicate by snail mail, use snail mail. If they want you to communicate by DM on Twitter or Facebook, private messaging, make sure you accommodate your client's needs. So rather than try to figure out who's using which platforms, I ask them, how would you like me to communicate with you regarding your case? And then I stop talking and start listening. And we've picked up new clients by just using that little tool.
Interesting. And I'm going to get to that actually in a little while as to how your digital presence has helped your business. But sure. What we've experienced at Experts.com is legal professionals and expert witnesses seem to have some difficulty adapting to new technology and some not so new technology. And why do you think that adaptation or that adoption has been difficult in this community, the legal community, legal related community?
I think it's probably a couple of different reasons. Number one, we're very, very busy, right? So I think people are hesitant about putting aside what they're comfortable with and what they're used to doing to venture over into something new, into a new type of platform. Number two, I think professionals, especially lawyers, they're afraid of sharing their secret sauce. If I share my secret sauce with everybody online, then nobody's going to pick up the phone and call me and hire me. And the reality, as you know, Nick, is just the opposite. The reality is by building a digital footprint, by sharing amazing content that helps people, if you're an expert witness with respect to forklifts and you have a blog post and social media platforms and you talk about the different types of forklifts, the dangers, the construction, the manufacturing process, different cases around the world concerning forklifts, within 6 to 12 months, you could be known as the forklift expert. Yeah. Even though you were, before you started venturing out onto social, it expands your sphere of influence. And pretty soon what happens is you start getting contacted from people around the world. You start getting contacted by new clients on the other side of the street that didn't even know you were there.
Right.
It just expands your sphere of influence in a way that's just, it's a lot of fun but it does take a new mindset for sure.
It does. And I think there is a fear, is what I've experienced dealing with experts, and you can comment on this probably as an attorney. The fear is, one of their main concerns is if I produce content, an attorney's going to come in and they're going to try to use it to impeach my credibility later on. Or they're going to use it against me, and the same goes with advertising. If I'm advertised, they're going to try and use it against me. I mean, what are your comments for that?
That person's got bigger problems. I mean, in all seriousness, if you're worried about something that you do or something you have to say or a position you're taking on a particular manufacturing process, coming back and hitting you in the face on another case, during a deposition, during a cross-examination, you probably need to reevaluate how you're sharing information and what information you're sharing. My dad told me a long time ago, as long as you tell the truth, you never have to remember what you've said. And when it comes to expert witnesses, I get it. I get that sometimes you're in a gray area. And look, I've been practicing law and trying cases for 30 years. It blows me away what certain opposing counsel's experts have testified to from the stand, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. If you want to be that guy, that gal, that type of expert, maybe being transparent on social isn't for you. But if you want to build a quality practice, if you want to build quality relationships, an exemplary reputation in your community as the go-to guy or gal in your area of expertise, this is the platform. These are the platforms you can use. I would love to see an expert getting on Blab once a week, talking about his or her area of expertise. That would be exciting.
Yeah. And that's something I'm working on, Mitch. It's something I want them to do because, part of the issue with these experts is, and I was talking with Dawn Carter about it yesterday on one of hers, these, 30, 40, 50 years of experience in some really cool and exciting areas, they've got a lot of stories to tell.
Absolutely.
A lot of good stories to tell. And, one of their other concerns oftentimes is, well, I don't want to give away something that will tell the opposing counsel how my analysis works. And I think to myself, well, but if you're not telling anybody how your analysis works, then somebody can't go out and hire you based on, oh, this guy looks like or this woman looks like she knows what she's talking about.
It's an old school way of thinking about doing business, about being a professional. Things have changed over the last 30 years and primarily over the last 15 years. And if you don't have the right mindset to engage in inbound marketing, in content marketing, and Google those terms, if you're not familiar with what that is, then you're missing the boat. It's just the opposite. It's by getting out there and helping people. That's how you'll get new business in the door. That's how you're going to develop your reputation in a very, very busy, in a very, very noisy world. How do you think lawyers and other experts and business owners are going to find you? I mean, you go to expert.com and obviously you're listed there and you're participating there, but you also need to take the initiative on your own. You need to, share your own internal art, who you are. When I'm looking for an expert, I don't just look at a piece of paper that somebody sends me. I check them out on social. I check them out with their blog posts, their websites. I want to kind of get a really good idea of who I'm going to be putting on the stand. What type of quality human being am I going to be putting on the stand? And then I'll take a step back and figure out who's the best one for my particular case.
And that brings me to kind of a point I was going to bring up in a minute, but I'll bring it up now since you kind of got on the topic, is what, digital media, it's putting us all out there. It's putting a lot of your information out there. Words of caution for those in your position who might be hiring an expert. What would they do if you're going to hire somebody? You just mentioned a few of the items that you would look at. You're going to get a CV probably. What other forms of due diligence are you going to do in that situation?
It's the same due diligence we've always done, except now we're doing it online too. We're adding the online due diligence, social media platform, internet platform type of background check. Whether I'm doing it, whether I have someone in my office doing it, whether I have an investigator doing it, I want to know what gets published out in the domain, whether it's books, articles. It's the same thing that we used to do, but it's actually easier today. I was practicing law for the internet, and so it's good to have a law library and actually research experts, whatever that means.
I'm losing you a little, Mitch. I'm losing you a little bit. I got you on audio only right now.
I can refresh because you're a lot clearer. Can you
refresh. Go ahead. Just 1 second while Mitch refreshes. And in a few minutes, we're going to get some people in here to ask some questions. I'm just going to... All right, letting you back in right now, Mitch. There you are. Okay. That's, a little bit better.
So I mean, the idea is you want to do your due diligence on anybody that you're going to put on the stand or cross-examine. And I think the reality is with the internet, with social media, with live streaming, you have to incorporate those platforms into your due diligence efforts. Absolutely. But here's the other thing. If you're putting out good content, if you're an expert and you're sharing killer content that's unique to what you do, that's well written, that's videos, podcast, blog post, it may result in the other side settling the case with the attorney who's going to be hiring you. In other words, if you're so impressive online that the other side doesn't want anything to do with you at trial, it might just help your client get a case settled.
Right. Good point. And in your legal malpractice, now I've heard your consistency throughout Periscope, throughout Blabs, and and so forth. And you do some legal malpractice expert witness work, and I'm wondering, would you have any fear of one of your scopes or your blabs or anything like that being used to, well, we want to show this to try and impeach Mitch's credibility?
No, it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. I think I'm very, very comfortable with the content that I talk about and share. Earlier today, we had a blab, Nick, that was focused on dealing with internet trolls, dealing with online harassment and cyberbullying. And, the people that were on the show were movers and shakers in their various industries. We had a police officer on the show. We had Kim Garst, Brian Fanzo. The point being is these are all people that I'm proud to be associated with. It's not something I'm ashamed of. And no, I think everything you do, you need to put out there with the thought in the back of your mind that this may come back at some point in the future. And if so, have it come back in a way that's constructive, have it come back in a way that's going to help you. So
Absolutely. And I do want to get some people in here, but there's one thing that I continue to see, which surprises me to this day, is people and the study that I just read from LexisNexis and Martindale Hubble said, 76% of adults are finding lawyers in part by doing internet research. And so it baffles me to this day when we have members and even attorneys who are still subscribing to print publications, and I have, you can see I've got over here in the corner, I've got a bunch of print publications that keep coming in, but that I have not gotten around to reading yet. And what are your thoughts on advertising in print?
Well, I'm not even a big fan of the A word anymore. I don't like to advertise or market. Honestly, it's all about building relationships, and there's no better way to do that than using the digital platforms, using live streaming and social media. But as far as information that's placed in book form, Martindale Hubble, the Yellow Pages, for example, these are all things you guys at lawyers traditionally have done for years. No, we don't do any of that.
Right.
And it's just because this is just much more effective. This is a much better way for you to share your talents, your unique art, your personality, your expertise, since we're talking about experts, with the world. And the people that embrace that and get that right now, looking back 2 or 3 years from now, they're going to be so far ahead of every other expert out there. It's going to be unbelievable. But you got to go about the digital platforms correctly, right? I mean, if you're an expert and you jump on these platforms the wrong way, it's going to be counterproductive. As a matter of fact, it might destroy your reputation. So I don't want to be cavalier about this. There's a right and wrong way to jump on the social platforms. I always use the mnemonic be human, BEHUMAN.
Yeah.
And if people
please elaborate on that for people, because I was actually going to ask you about that.
Sure, I would love to. I mean, just it's at streaminglawyer.com if you Google it. But the Be Human mnemonic, it's a good roadmap for all of us to use, especially experts and professionals with being online. The B is for be yourself. Okay, be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else. You want to be prepared, you want to be professional, but you also want to be yourself. And you want to encourage your employees, your staff members, your support staff and support team when they're online to also be themselves. The E is for enthusiasm. You want to be enthusiastic about what you're doing. If you're an expert in the topic of ping pong balls, I want you to be the most excited expert in the world about ping pong balls. I mean, that's your passion. That's what you live for when you get up in the morning and go to sleep at night. It's all about the ping pong balls. Share your content with enthusiasm so that if next week, for some reason, you're no longer around, your platforms are wiped off the face of the earth, well, people miss you. So share your content in an enthusiastic way. The H is for helping others. Go out of your way to help others. Don't necessarily expect anything in return. Everything you do today does not have to include a call to action. As an expert, share value, help others, and that's how you'll expand your sphere of influence. The U is to understand. Understand who you're communicating to, understand your audience, talk less and listen more. When I talk about listening on the social platforms, I mean, watch what's going on, pay attention to what's being said. Experts seem to have the idea that they need to speak more than anybody else in the room. And I say that with love and affection, especially lawyers, okay? But the reality is, listen 70% of the time, and I mean active listening. Learn how to become an active listener, both on and offline, and then communicate, talk 30% of the time. Make a difference. Make sure the content you're sharing is unique to you. Make a difference by sharing the content that you're sharing in other people's lives. I mean, these are all benchmarks. A is for authenticity. Be authentic in what you do. Once again, don't try to be anybody else. Avoid sales talk. If you're an expert, if I'm a lawyer, I'm not using legal terms. I'm not speaking in Latin terms. I'm not using jury instructions. I'm trying to communicate my message in everyday terms that the end user, that my audience can experience and understand. And then last and not least, it's N for never stop learning, never stop improving, never stop learning about new platforms. The right expert on the right new platform, on Periscope, on Blab right now, could just totally dominate his or her industry, because they're not out there on right now. They're not using these platforms. And you are, I am, some of our friends are, but I'm telling you guys, jump on Periscope, jump on Blab, and start sharing your expertise the right way, and you can dominate your market. So that's what Be Human means.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's a great mnemonic, and it's great advice for how to behave on these platforms. And it's a great guide for how to behave and then not have something that comes back to bite you, right? I mean, if you're being human, you're not going to have this come back to bite you.
And we all look, nobody's perfect. And the problem a lot of experts have, and they're not very good experts if they have this attitude, is they try to come across as being perfect from the witness stand. Look, maybe in their minds, they think they're doing a good job, but they're not developing rapport with the jury. They're not doing a good job for their client who hired them. The best witnesses in the world are the witnesses expert witnesses from the stand that come across as competent. They know what they're talking about, but they also have good human skills. They also have good people skills. And on social media, guys and gals, it's okay to make mistakes. You don't have to come across as being perfect. Just be yourself. People will start connecting with you for who you are, and it'll accelerate everything else that happens down the road.
Excellent. That's great advice. And, I don't mean to put you on the spot with this question, but I remember you saying that you were juggling expert witnesses one time when you were getting interviewed on Periscope. And how do you find expert witnesses these days? What is and of course, I want you to use Experts.com, go there and do the searching, but that is not the point of this. How do you do it yourself?
Well, first of all, because of the relationship that we've built here, the next time I need an expert, I am going to reach out to you. I mean, that right there is the power in social. I feel more of a connection with you. The support you've given me on the digital platforms, the shows we've been on together, that's how you build relationships, everybody. So Nick's got my business. Now, having said that, oftentimes I found I deal with referrals and recommendations from other lawyers who I trust. So if I've got a complicated medical malpractice case involving a certain issue, I'll reach out to a friend of mine in town who I may have read about him handling the same type of case. Right. And I'll reach out to him or her, who do you recommend? Were you happy with your expert? That's what we've done in the past. I rarely will, I shouldn't say rarely, that's the norm. The exception would be if it's an unusual type of case, to go to a service and have them see if they can find someone that works out for us.
And we don't claim, what you just talked about is the best way. There's no replacement to that word of mouth. It just is not. But we found, our goal has been to disrupt that whole broker mentality. Go and pay a fee to somebody who's then going to broker the engagement and add a markup to each billable hour.
So tell me how yours works. If you don't mind.
Experts.com. You can go to the site and search it 24/7. The member profiles are available 24/7. Their contact information, their email address, their phone number. You get to contact them directly without having a broker in the middle. If you're having any difficulty locating them, give us a call and we'll assist you with it. But that is the idea. Eliminate that thing that one part of what makes litigation so costly.
Okay. That's a great, yeah. And it's a great, I like it. I like the idea. I like the platform. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, and in that we try to market our members to the best of, put their best foot forward. We do an assisted search if you need it. We had, I may have mentioned in my email to you where we had the red shoe case, the Christian Louboutin case, where somebody found one of our members on our site, but they also found it through a broker with a $200 an hour difference, because on our site they were getting this expert directly with a broker. They had to pay $200 more per hour.
Wow.
For what? For billing, So as things pile up. But the assisted search, we will make contact for you. We will contact all the experts, run the facts by them, ask them if they are able to assist to help you get the most identified, the best group of people. So if it's just Southern California, we'll send you a list of Southern California people. And so yeah, give us a chance when you need somebody next time.
I love it.
That's how we do it. And I know you're big on disruption, and that's our goal. With that said, I'd like to bring some people in if anybody has questions. I know Joe Beard was trying to get in previously. I'm not sure if he's still here. It looks like
Absolutely.
He might be.
Come in and say hi. Come in and say hi, and we can talk about anything to do with law or experts. And while you're bringing Joe in, just real quick, one of the last cases, Nick, I tried had to do with a negligent transport between one hospital and another. And my expert, a friend of mine down the street is a fire captain, and it had to do with EMTs. And so I asked my friend who I trust, I said, is there anybody that you're working with who's an expert in EMTs? He goes, yeah, my best friend trains all the EMTs in Orange County. Has he ever been an expert witness? No, he's never. He doesn't like lawyers. He's never testified in court. Do you think he'd talk to me? And long story short, that was his first opportunity to testify from the stand as an expert. He was by far one of the best experts I've ever had on the stand. Right. Came in his uniform. This is what he does. He's not an expert. He's a full-time fire captain, and we won the case. And that's another way to get experts, is ask your friends.
Yes, and that's a fantastic story. Some people never think about this as an opportunity to monetize their knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. But we had a salesman come into our office here one day, just selling insurance, starts asking about, you'll like this because you were an expert rated hang glider, as I understand at one point, if maybe still. But this guy came in with, and he starts asking about what Experts.com is, and right. We tell him, and he says, well, I've got over 11,000 hours of parachuting experience. I'm expert rated parachute, and now he's on our site and getting retained. He's been retained several times. Yeah, I tried to get Joe Beard in here, but he had a bad signal. So does anybody else want to join and ask some questions about Mitch, about embracing digital platforms to market your expert witness practice, or your legal practice, your professional practice?
We talked about the if anyone wants to join us, that'd be fantastic. We talked about the time restraints that experts have. We're all really, really busy. And I think what a lot of professionals need to realize is once you create content, let's just take this blab for example. Once Nick's done with this blab as an expert, and let's say we're talking about a topic regarding your area of expertise, you can take this blab and then you can share 5 or 10 tweets over the next 1 or 2 weeks about this particular blab. You can take this blab and you can embed it in a blog post at your website. You can take this blab and you can do a screenshot and share it on Instagram or Pinterest. There are literally dozens and dozens of ways of repurposing content that you've done once to get it out on the different social media platforms. And you should look at these social media platforms, I do, as digital welcome mats. Yes. Okay, I want to have as many welcome mats out there as I can to give me a chance to help people. And then if it's the correct fit and they'd like to retain me, to offer them our legal services. So I can't think of a better way to create content and then repurpose it fairly easily in a way where by the time you're done, it's like planting seeds, right? It's like planting seeds in the garden. And if after you plant enough seeds and as the seasons change, season after season, before you know it, You've got a beautiful garden that's expanding your global influence, and now everybody knows about you, where before, the only people that knew about you were the office to your right, the office to your left, and maybe a couple of people down at the courthouse.
And you're exactly right. I mean, the content that you're talking about, you can really spread the word extensively. And one of the things we had been big on for a while is and still are, is our members writing case studies and articles and linking those to their profiles.
I love it.
Because these perform so well. Our members' articles on our site perform so well in search engines. We've got this one about certificate of mailing versus certified mailing, right? And everybody, I guess people are coming to look at his article more than they're going to the U.S. Postal Service site, because we've even seen the Postal Service doing a Google search to find him, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, the Supreme Court. I mean, so if you put out good content, people are going to find it, and explain something that people don't understand.
And when they intentionally do go to your website to look at that content, let's say Nick gives me your name and I go to your website, I'm blown away when I see expert websites that has a ton of valuable content that really, 5 things every lawyer needs to know when dealing with a ping pong ball expert. That's what I'm looking for. There was an expert witness we used on a wrongful death drowning case, a tragic case here in Orange County, and it had to do with negligent lifeguarding. And they really dropped the ball in this case. But to make a very long story short, I hired an expert out of New York. His name is Frank Pia. And I don't know if Frank's in your database, but when I went to Frank's website, and he's the leading drowning expert in the world. In fact, the defendant's expert who had co-written the book, one of the books by the American Red Cross, when I was taking his deposition, I asked him the question, is there anybody that you look up to? Is there anybody you would go to for advice if you had questions as an expert? Absolutely. I would go with Mr. Frank Pia. He named my expert. But the reason I was sold on Frank is when I went to his website, he had some really amazing videos on the risk and the reality of silent drownings. A lot of people think that when somebody drowns, the drowning victim makes a lot of noise, and it's a silent death. And I never knew that before. And when I read his articles, like you said, when I watched the videos, when I engaged with Frank on the different platforms, I thought to myself, that's my guy. And even though I had to bring him out from New York, as soon as he got out of bed in the morning and his foot hit the floor, I was being billed. When he's on the plane flying out here first class, I'm paying for it. It was an expensive decision for us to grab that New York expert as opposed to an expert here in California. But I got to tell you something. It was the best decision we ever made.
Right. You do, and you pay for quality. Oftentimes you have to pay for quality.
And I felt comfortable with doing that because of the relationship we built online, as we've been discussing. So you guys got to think long term. If you really want to build quality relationships and bill a premium amount, which you're entitled to as a good expert witness, this is a great way to do it.
Yeah, that's great. Does anybody want to join in? Any questions for Mitch? It looks like Joe Beard couldn't get in. He didn't have a mic yet, so I'm sure, Joe, if you want to ask a question in the sidebar, please do.
No worries, because I'm always available, at our website.
Please tell people where they can find you, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if somebody, after the fact, I always tell clients once they leave the office, you're going to have questions. We did, each one of us forgot to talk about something. So if anybody would like to reach out, figure out, how to go about diving into the digital platforms the right way. If you guys have questions, not only can I steer you to the right people who I really value their input as social media experts, but I love this stuff, so I'd be happy to answer your questions. My law firm website is jacksonandwilson.com, which is also mylawyerrocks.com. I'm on Twitter at Mitch Jackson. And then over the last couple of months, streaminglawyer.com. Why did I do streaminglawyer.com? Because as soon as Periscope and Meerkat came out, I'm like, this is changing everything. What a great way to engage on a global level using one of these. And we are all media publishing companies now, and this is our tool. If you're not doing what we're talking about, and I know Clarissa is also active on the platforms, you're missing out. This is what you guys need to do.
Hi,
Hey,
Clarissa. Thanks for jumping in. Did you have some questions?
Mitch, nice meeting you, Nick. Mitch, great seeing you again.
absolutely, my pleasure.
So I'm a behavioral scientist and clinician and researcher. I spent the majority of my career in the area of infectious disease and psychiatry.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So I started a blog about 3 years ago, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I only learned that now. I started a very tongue-in-cheek relationship wellness blog, which was an extension of some of the techniques I designed in practice. So I call the blog "You're Just a Dumbass." That's why I have this handle, right? You're just dumbass.com, where I re-engineered some of the traditional therapeutic model and created a new behavior modification model, a much more expedited version. So I've had 3 years of testing my hypothesis. I have results and everything. So now now being on Blabs and listening to Mitch and listening to all these other thought leaders, I realized I probably should have done it the reverse, where I should have built out a bigger brand and then the blog. So now I'm looking at, obviously building out a larger brand, right?
Right.
So now I was thinking, because there's the blog, and then I want to create an online dating software solution that I've been also working on. I designed that algorithm. So those two things are going to be under, my brand.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
So what my question is that should I use my name as the parent or the umbrella, or should I use something that kind of encapsulates some of the things that I'll continue to create?
I'll tell you what I think you ought to do, because I'm a firm believer of personal branding.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer of creating a product or service around, Clarissa Silva.
Okay.
And you just indicated for the last 3 years you've been working on your blog. What I'm hearing is you've just written your book.
Yes.
I mean, okay. Yeah. And the three ways to really gain visibility online, regardless of what you're doing, is, to get involved with the social platforms like you're already doing, to write a book, which you've already done. You just have to repurpose it and put it together and clean it up and get it out. That's the best calling card in the world. And to start speaking. Mm-hmm. And you put those three elements together, and the sky's the limit. And, I've seen you on some of our other Blabs. I think it's been Blabs. I don't know if it was on Periscope, but on Blabs. And, yeah. I did notice your handle, by the way. I thought, wow, that's a really interesting blog post. URL, right? So you've got my attention. And it's just a matter of understanding that it's a marathon and not a sprint. I mean, what I've noticed is the people who you're seeing, or maybe you might think are influencers and maybe having some success online, the reality is it hasn't been an overnight type of scenario. The reality is it's probably taken years and years and years of practice, building a network, building platforms, adding content. It's just an ongoing process. And the fact that you clicked and joined Nick and I today, that's huge, because you've just taken a step that most people don't take for whatever reason. So embrace that. I mean, embrace the fact that you've got your book probably written. Embrace the fact that you're making new connections. It sounds like you've attacked an area of your expertise differently than everyone else, and that's what makes you unique. So now it's just a matter of doing a weekly Periscope, a weekly Blab, and start talking about each blog post. Start talking about, in a very easygoing way, in inviting guests in a community type of way, some of the different theories and things that you're working on. I think that'd be exciting.
And that's it. It is exact. What Mitch is saying is basically exactly what we were talking about here. If you've got expertise, get out and share it so that you make your, you get your digital footprint going. I mean, it's exactly what we were talking about when you jumped in, Mitch. It's you have a chance to be, if you're not making your digital footprint, I think you said, then then you're working on being irrelevant at one point. You said if you're not working these platforms, then your relevance will be diminished in our current digital age.
Absolutely. I think that if you're not building a digital footprint the right way, you may not have a business, you may not have a expert industry to go to work to in 5 years. I mean, you're either on these platforms doing things the right way, building a digital footprint and engaging and building community, or you're not going to be relevant. I was at lecturing in a class a couple of weeks ago at Chapman University, and one of the students talked about, I'm not sure I want to build a digital footprint. What are the pros and cons? What should I be concerned with? And I said, well, the real concerns are based upon what you want to do is nobody's going to know who you are. Nobody's going to know that you have a service to sell. Nobody's going to know what value you can bring to their lives because you're not going to be active on the social platforms. But the reality is other people will be writing about you. Other people will be writing your digital footprint for you. So the key is not to jump on all the platforms, but the key is if you like to write, then focus on your blog. If you don't mind being on video, especially live streaming, this is huge. I mean, this is a game changer, right? Jump on the live streaming platforms and start developing a presence and start having Q&As once a week, and sharing them on Twitter so that we can all join them and learn more about what you're doing and start embracing each other's community efforts.
Yeah. And that's really what I've found, Clarissa, with interacting with Mitch, is that I started following him around in Periscope and Blab because he was in the legal community, which is the community that we serve. And on top of that, I found that I liked the information that he was sharing. I found it relevant. I found it helpful. And so now if I see one of his Periscopes pop up, I jump in, and even if I don't have time to watch it, I tweet it out because you're building a relationship and building what is commonly referred to as a community, right, Mitch? Your community of people. But that's what people do. If they like what you're sharing, then they're going to start following you and interacting with you, like you as a person.
Absolutely.
Did you have
anything? Yeah, I was just going to say real quick, I was listening to Alex Kahn yesterday on Periscope, and he was pointing out, and I actually agree and can relate, I engage more with people on the live streaming platforms each week than many of my neighbors on the street I live on.
Right.
And we have a tight street. I mean, we're all really active with each other, but the reality is I engage with the same 10 or 20 people each week on live streaming more so than anything else. So that's a reality. And so I think smart professionals embrace that rather than run as fast as they can the other way.
Yeah.
So when your book comes out, I want you to let me know so that I can read it and share it with my audience. How's that sound?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I think I just think from an industry standpoint, I think there's a lot of hesitation to use this kind of medium because of the same reasons of the legal community. There's lack of confidentiality. There's also restriction against how we can practice using this medium. So I think that's what chokes a lot of medicine back. We're very fearful, and we're scientists. I think we're the one group that love lawyers because every move we make, we're worried about.
I don't hear that very often. So.
Well, we're worried about IP. We're worried about malpractice, unethics,
So take a step back. Take a step back. I hear you, and it's the same thing with financial planners, lawyers, doctors. Take a couple of step backs and think about the 3 years of blog posts that you've written that are already out there.
Yeah.
Each one of those is a conversation on live stream. You're not disclosing private patient facts. You're not violating HIPAA rules or regulations. What you're doing in each of those blog posts is you're talking about an aspect of what you do for a living in a way that's obviously exciting to you. It's unique to you. There's a reason why you wrote those blog posts. And do you see the difference where I don't have to talk about my clients' cases or an evidentiary issue that exists in a case that's coming up for trial. As much as I would like to, because it would help other lawyers avoid making the same mistake. But what I can do is take a couple of steps back, take a deep breath, and generally speaking, talk about an issue. Talk about online cyber harassment. Talk about trolls. Talk about when you start your show off as a professional, it's always a good idea. This blab is brought to you by Jackson and Wilson, a professional law corporation. My name is Mitch Jackson. Let's talk about the law. So I'm just saying, take a step back and share a more moderate level of what you do, and then you won't run into any of these issues, right?
Yeah, Clarissa, one of the things we recommend to our members is case studies or case scenarios. And Mitch, you'll appreciate this because we tell them to do the law school writing style of IRAC, issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. But we say issue, facts, analysis, conclusion. Leave out confidential party names. Leave out any identifying information, and make it very general in nature. The facts are the important thing, not necessarily the identifying facts, but the facts and your analysis. In applying your analysis to those facts, that's what's important. And you can do that without giving away any confidential information. And there's no law against sharing knowledge, okay, which is what you're doing in your blog post. So there's no law against sharing your knowledge that you've acquired over a significant, time in your industry. And I think there is a stigma, though, isn't there, Mitch? There's still in some of these communities, there's a stigma about being on digital platforms and social media. Is there that it's the kids are doing social media? I mean, having people understand the value of this.
Well, the only stigma is my kids don't want me on the same platforms they're on. And, you know what? I think there used to be, when the Pony Express was how we transported mail across the country, and then the telegraph came along, and then the radio came along, and then the television came along, and then black and white, and then color, then the fax machine. Look, with change comes resistance. And I think the smart business owners out there embrace change, disrupt industries. If you're doing things like everybody else in town, you're doing things the wrong way. You've got to think outside the box. You've got to disrupt what you're doing. And so having said that, by being on these platforms, we're disrupting how our respective industries traditionally do things, and that's a good thing. That's what creates success. There was a question over on the in the comments, what's the best platform to begin? And that's a really good common question that I get all the time. My response, and Robert Stern's here, I think he would tell you this: start on two things. Where are your clients, first of all? Okay, find out where your clients are, and that depends on what you do. That might depend on age, it might depend on gender, it might depend on a lot of things. But ask your clients, what platforms are you on? And that would be a good place to start. If you're comfortable with video, jump on video and live streaming. If you can't stand to be on video and you're nervous and you sweat and you pull that Richard Nixon sweating nervousness, there's just zero trust involved, even though you're the nicest person in the world, well, then don't get on video. Start with blogging and podcasting. Those are very effective ways to share your art with the world. Having said that, learn how to be good on video. These are all things that you can learn how to do. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. I don't know if anybody, Clarissa, real quick. Clarissa, a great book, if you haven't read it, is Utility by Jay Baer. Have you read Utility?
No, not yet.
All right. You're going to thank me once you get this book, because as a professional, Jay does a great job of showing you through his book, and it's YOU utility. Okay, like you as a human being, utility. And you'll read this book and you'll get what I'm talking about with sharing the content in your blog posts to help other people. That's your utility.
And can you repeat that name of the author's name for us? And I'd like to welcome Robert Stern.
Hey,
Hi, Robert.
Hello, Clarissa.
Hi, Robert.
No, I just jumped in because I wanted to reiterate something Mitch said that is like the main thing that's so important about using the platforms. You have to know where your customers are. If your customers are not on Periscope or Blab, you don't need to be on it. Don't spread yourself thin. There's 20 different places that are social media sites and digital places to go. Only go where it is. Do your diligence, do your research to find out where your clientele or future clientele is, and that's what you hit.
And what about potential clients? What would you say about potential clients, Robert?
It's the same thing, because whatever your client is also your potential client. Mitch, your mic's not working, by the way.
Sorry about that. Which is even better.
I thought it was my ex-wife.
What's better than a lawyer listening to a lawyer speak with the mute on, right? So here's the thing.
But you.
Here's the thing. I was on a panel on a Linked OC event, which is a great group of people in Orange County, about 20,000 participants. And I was easily the oldest guy on the stage from what I can remember. And the audience was asking, how can we find out where our audience is, where our potential customers and clients are, as Robert just mentioned? The first gentleman, and they're all experts, run these, Google Analytics, blah, 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 blah. The next one's talking about do a survey using these digital platforms to run a query, database search, blah, 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 right? And you know who was in the audience was Chapman, CC Chapman.
Oh, CC.
CC was in the audience. And so when they came to me, I said, here's what I would do, guys. I would simply ask your clients. Pick up the phone. This is called a phone right here. I said, a lot of people don't know what this is. Pick up the phone and ask your clients.
These too.
And ask where they are. Yeah, just ask them where they are. And it was funny because when CC took the stage, he went back to that. He said, I think some of the best advice I just heard tonight that made sense was ask your clients which platforms they're on. And as Robert just said, then go to those platforms to start. Now, having said that, take them by the hand and show them the light. Bring them over to Blab. Bring them over to Periscope. Bring them over to your YouTube channel, because there's something about live video where you're looking each other in the digital eyeballs. You're really connecting with people. We're having this real-time back and forth. Yeah. The Blab I was on earlier today, we had a police officer join us. He's on duty. I don't know. I think you saw this, Nick. Yeah. But Mike joins us with his cell phone and participates in a live stream Blab while he's on the job. That's huge. That's incredible. I mean, you like someone like that. You want to stay connected with someone like that, and then they bring value to the show.
That's right.
That's awesome. So you can't do that through a blog post.
What you even said about asking is so important, because I already sent out through my mailing list, and I do this every single year, October, November. What do you want? What do you want to learn out of my industry in the upcoming year? Because my clients want to learn about social media and everything else. So what I'm doing is because they know I do the Blabs or the courses or the Periscopes and things like that. So what do you want to move on to and learn more about in 2016? So my clients and future clients, they're maybe not clients, they're giving me all the information I need to set up my courses, to set up everything I need to do for my content, because that's what they want to hear.
Yeah, and in fact, Clarissa, I think Dawn wants to jump in real quick
before she goes, Nick. Yeah, you guys,
let me show it.
This is David Merriman Scott's brand new.
That's the new one.
Yeah, but it's the 5th edition, you guys. This is something else, Clarissa, that I would recommend. Probably it's been printed in 18 different languages around the world. It's used in university classrooms. Amazing book. You take this book, add it with Jay Baer's book Utility, you will be ahead of 98%, 99% of your competition. That's how good it is. So, and when you get this, it's DM Scott is David's Twitter handle. Reach out to David, connect with him. He's a heck of a nice guy, and tell him I said hi.
Okay, perfect. Mitch, Nick, Robert, thank you all so much.
Thanks, Clarissa.
All right,
thank you. And Robert had mentioned on a Blab that I was on with him yesterday, or I was watching yesterday, which I think you were at 70 days on Blab yesterday, and you had picked up 17 clients.
Yep.
Which is pretty impressive.
And
Pretty
and
impressive.
Mitch has been on Blaz with me. Nick, you've been on Blaz with me. I'm not on here saying, work with me, work with me, work with me. I never say that.
That's right. And here comes Dawn Carter. She wanted to join. Thank you guys thank you for this, Mitch. I've got us scheduled for about 5 more minutes. I hope that works for you.
I'm having a blast. So I would rather. Hey, Don, how you doing?
Hey,
Hi, Dawn.
doing good. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
We can hear you and see you, which is even better. And we're going to do the first ever Orange County Blab Up, right?
Yes, we are. See, to me, that is again one of the aspects of doing video.
Don, you were doing so well.
You're
It froze
freezing up a little bit.
Blab's having a little bit of an issue right now. I heard they were.
You're teasing.
Oh,
You're teasing
now you
us
can't?
a little bit,
Oh.
but that's okay.
We've got you on audio, Don.
We do? Okay.
Yeah, just audio.
Oh, dang it. But I mean, the real beauty is to actually meet in real life.
Yeah.
You know, you become familiar with someone because of their tweets or their blog posts. You're curious, and then you actually get one step closer because you're in a video chat with them, and it's like, you know what? They really are legit. They're the real deal. And then you take it to go grab a coffee. You go grab a beer. I mean, really, literally, that is the progression that you have. All of us have an opportunity to, to let that. And then in real life, you get that extra. Wow, I didn't know that you were into scuba diving. I didn't know that you were, all those
An expert in scuba diving, possibly.
An expert.
An expert in scuba diving.
It's pretty cool. The opportunities are pretty cool.
Yeah, Mitch, am I still audio only?
Unfortunately, why don't you refresh? See if you can
refresh
again. But what's interesting is taking online connections and relationships offline is awesome. I had coffee with Saba yesterday, and we talked about some things. That was awesome.
We've spoken.
In New York City, Robert and I connected.
And on the phone prior to it, even.
Periscope community, absolutely. I had a wonderful lunch with Chrissy Lightfoot, a.k.a. the Naked Lawyer out of Leeds, England. We had lunch in London together. Felt like I was sitting down with an old friend. I mean, it's just amazing how this helps expedite the development of a relationship, right?
Yeah, it's actually due to my interactions mostly on Blab and some on Periscope. Blab's having their meetup this Saturday in San Francisco, and I'm going to go over there and check it out to get a chance to meet some of the people face to face a lot of you guys were at the Periscope Summit. I wasn't able to be there, but I look forward to actually meeting some of the Blab people face to face this weekend.
But I wanted to just add I was just at a conference a couple of weeks ago. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Just keep going.
So sorry, guys. Okay. So I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago about mentoring and stars of people that are doing things. Now you can't hear me? Is that true?
When you ask if we can hear you, we can hear you.
Okay, so
it's kind of in between, unfortunately.
You guys. But basically, I met them in real life. They've never been on Blab. I'm inviting them over into Blab. And so I had one of the, the Oklahoma City, head of the gang unit that is doing a lot of phenomenal work with at-risk youth. I brought him into Blab. I brought a gal that's, so I'm bringing them into this so that they can, again, as my gift to them to expand their platform. I want people to know about that.
That I think it's smart Don's doing that though. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's what you were just talking about, Mitch, as far as kind of why I asked you to be here today was you said find out what platforms they're on, but it's okay to show, take their hand and show them to the light. We want to introduce to our members to get on these digital platforms and really get out there and produce some content that people, Go ahead, Robert.
Some will, some won't. Just like I have customers that, listen, I'm dragging them, kicking and screaming to stay on Facebook. And guess what? They're like, but it's so crazy. It's so hard. I go, I know, but there's 1.4 billion people on it, and it's still the #1 social media platform for your business. I didn't say business. I was like, for your business, you cannot walk away from it.
Right.
Yeah, it's important to engage your audience where that audience is. And I know this morning I had Rotary this morning, and what I posted on Facebook, and I try to post every day, but this morning was I just reposted a picture from our Rotary Facebook website. So I shared it on my wall, where we honor 2 high school seniors each week, strike that, each month at Rotary. High school seniors of the week. So it's kind of a personal community service post. It has nothing to do with the law firm. But what happens over time is people they notice that you're involved in your community. They notice that you're a Rotarian. They notice that other people don't mind being around you. I mean, you're in pictures with other people. So you're not like this troll with like this big second head growing out of your back, right? And I think there's all of these indirect messages and communications that are taking place when you're engaging on the different platforms, and it makes people comfortable with picking up the phone and calling you. And that's what's important.
Yeah. Well, and it is about 2:30. I don't want to take up any more of Mitch's time unless I can go off record, Mitch, if you wanted to stick around for a few minutes.
Sure.
That would be fine with me.
Let's
So
do that.
I'll just wrap up here in a second, go off record. I'm Nick Rishwain. This was brought to you by Experts.com. Joining me today are Mitch Jackson. You can find him at Mitch Jackson, at streaminglawyer.com, at jacksonandwilson.com, and at human.social, talking about professionals embracing digital platforms. Also with me, Robert C. Stern and Don Carter. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much, Mitch, for being here. And
Thanks for having me on.